Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our week 2 of the AI Marketing Lab, which is part of our 2026 Jumpstart January series. My name is Ashley Dudaranok. I'm a member of EOG BAM, tuning in from Hong Kong, and I'm thrilled to be here with you again today. Last week, you remember that well, we used AI to analyze markets, customers, and competitors. But this week, we focus on AI visibility, key business assets, and making your brand recommendable. First things first, how many of you did your homework? Yes, use that reaction button with thumbs up. Let me see. Yeah, I see Jess sends us heart. But how many of you guys? Yes, Rebecca, thank you. Who did their homework? Who looked into the competitors? Rod, thank you so much. Come on, come on, come on. We want to see more of the thumbs up floating on our screen. And meanwhile, we are glad to have, of course, our coach, Ross Simmonds, back with us to walk us through the topic for today. Before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping notes. As always, first of all, get your video on. We would love to see your beautiful smiley faces. Come on, show yourselves. I see Rebecca there. I see Larnie. Thank you very much. I see Jothran, Dave. Thank you so much. Kaylee, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Secondly, please update your Zoom name to include your first and last name and country if you haven't done that yet. When it comes to interpretation, for this session, we're offering live interpretation in Mandarin, Chinese, and Japanese. So click interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen to select your preferred language. You can also turn on multilingual captions using the caption options on your Zoom toolbar. If you have any questions for us, remember, anytime throughout the session, you can drop them in the chat. And if we don't get to it today, you can also follow up in our LinkedIn group. So the link to that group will be shared right now in our chat. And lastly, a reminder that today's session will be recorded and posted on our course platform within the next 48 hours. We'll drop the link in the chat as well right now. So now it is my pleasure to turn things over to Ross Simmonds, your coach for the AI Marketing Lab. Welcome back, Ross. We're excited. Let's go get them.
Thanks for having me, Ashley. Really appreciate it. Thanks again for a warm introduction. Folks, if you don't follow Ashley on all the platforms, you definitely should. Super excited to be here, folks. Thrilled today to dive into one of my favorite topics, which is how to show up in the LLMs. Last week, we talked about how you can use it to do research, how you can move faster, how you can find things, how you can discover more about your competitors, about your industries, your markets, the spaces in which you are trying to influence. We dove into a lot of that. But today, we're going to talk about how you can become more recommendable, how you can show up more in ChatGPT, in Perplexity, in Claude, in Grok, in all of the different LLMs, Reddit answers, you name it. How can you and your business start to show up more effectively? But before we do that, I do need to confess. I have a confession to make. This is something that I've carried with me for quite some time. It's something that has impacted me all my life in professional events, at networking events, at conferences. As someone who does public speaking all the time, it influences me every single time I go on stage and go to events. You see, the problem is when I go to these events, I have an issue. And that issue is that I'm a wanderer. And I don't mean I go to these events and I get lost in the crowds. I don't mean that one time when I was a kid and I grabbed the hand of a complete stranger at a fair and I went missing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a wanderer as it relates to my actual mind. I can be sitting in front of someone and having a great conversation. We could be talking about things that I love, like marketing, business, growth, sales, revenue, all of those things. And I will be enthralled in that conversation. But what happens is if I get a glimpse that there's another conversation happening, another dialogue, another in-depth debate, a discussion, my brain will shift directly to that conversation. In fact, a few years ago, I was at an event and me and this gentleman were having a conversation about how just 15 years ago, if you uploaded a vertical video instead of a horizontal video, everyone on the internet would yell at you. It was a bad thing to do. But today, vertical video is the norm. It's everywhere. It is great. We were having this conversation, and then my brain shifted. It shifted to a debate that two people were having about whether or not butter should be kept in the fridge or on the counter. Now, this is a debate that I still to this day think is a very valid one because it does depend on where you live. But when I heard this debate, my brain was completely enthralled in this conversation. It was like he was talking to me and I couldn't hear anything. It was like out of a Charlie Brown commercial where the mom talks and it's like wah, 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 wah. I could hear nothing, right? It was so bad that when my wife came over, I introduced her as my butter half because I was completely caught off guard by this. I would have blushed if I could blush, right? So I was so embarrassed. I went home and I decided to do what I always do. We talked about Sherlock Homeboy last week, my obsession with data and research. So I went into scientific journals to understand what in the world is going on in my brain. And I found it. It's this thing called the cocktail party effect. It's an actual human trait that scientists have studied for years and that they have actually found to be a superpower that humans can do. Amongst a bunch of chaos with lots of noise around us, we have the ability as humans to isolate sounds that we actually are interested in outside of all of the noise, right? And focus on that. If you're at a wedding, you can hear what someone 2 seats down from you is saying to their friend, and you can isolate the person next to you and hear that. This is the cocktail party effect. It's our brain's ability to focus on aspects of sound in the sea of noise. And when I came across this, I realized something. I realized that there's one place that this doesn't work, and that is the internet. Because the internet is the loudest cocktail party ever. There is so many notifications, so many dings and dongs and tweets and posts and reposts and shares and reels and stories. The content is everywhere. And in many ways, this is kind of my fault. It's all of our faults. It's marketers' faults. It's gurus on LinkedIn's fault. It's all of their fault for preaching at the top of their lungs for the last few years. Content is king. Create more content, write more content, and the world will be yours. Everyone needs to create. And the world has listened. The world has embraced this idea of creating. You have bought into it likely and have created things. You've written blog posts, you put up status updates, you tried Instagram, you tried TikTok, you tried LinkedIn. You've tried all of these things to create, to drive more visibility, yet it's just noisy, right? Google is making your life harder than ever. We talked about this before. Whether you're selling services, you can go to Google and the answer is going to be given right to you. No longer does Google just send you traffic. If you write a blog post about the best plumbers in your region, the best businesses in your region, you used to get traffic for that. Now, Google will answer the question directly in the search engine results page. You could ask Google, what are the best foods to improve gut health? And today, that answer doesn't lead to a blog. It's right there directly in Google. You don't get the traffic. You don't get the visitor, but Google benefits from the content that you wrote. Google has 100% become a destination. No matter if you're a marketer, you're at threat. No matter if you run your own business, you run a franchise, a restaurant, an HVAC business, you name it, a manufacturing company. At the end of the day, Google has become a destination. And it's becoming more and more challenging to win at this game of digital marketing when it's so noisy. So what do we do? Well, I think we have to revert back to this philosophy and say it's not king. Content is no longer king, distribution is. And if we needed to give ourselves a little simple acronym, I believe the acronym is DREAM. Distribution rules everything around me. In the age in which LLMs are citing multiple sources, we have to stop thinking exclusively about the website that is in our circle of control and start thinking about the platforms and the other things that can influence the LLMs. So today, what we're going to be diving into is the way in which you optimize both your site and do things off-site that will influence the LLMs. Because here's the thing. Ever since 2018, brands should have been paying attention to Quora, Reddit, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. Because these sites are now being cited in Google AI overviews more than any other platform. And I wish I came across you back in 2018 when I was attempting to tell this very story. And the reason why I bring this back up is because today I want to share with you the strategies and the ideas that I believe will set you up for the next 10 years. If you don't plan to go into the next 10 years with success and thriving in this rise of LLMs, then you don't have to listen. But if you do, then my hope is that the ideas here will stick with you. So let's first start with a reality check. I worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, and every single time I have logged into their analytics, I'm talking about brands that you probably use today, will use later today, brands that software you engage with every week, their impressions and clicks are doing what very likely your clicks and impressions are doing as well. What do I mean? On the back end of your site, how many of you, just in the quick chat, say yes or no, have Google Analytics or Google Search Console installed? If you do, that's a good thing. You want to be able to track, or maybe you have a different analytics platform. That's great too. But you want to be able to track where your traffic is coming from, which Google Analytics can provide you with. But you also want to be able to see in Google Search Console how often is your page showing up in the SERP. And the SERP is a search engine results page, meaning if I go to Google and I ask for the best manufacturer of sweaters or wholesale sweaters, whatever it might be, Google is going to essentially show me 5 companies that it believes can help me get that answer. That is the search engine results page. And since around this time last year, there's been a decoupling of clicks and impressions, meaning that the clicks have gone down, but the impressions have gone up. Why? Because you are getting more visibility in the search because Google is getting more traffic and is constantly being used, but the amount of people clicking on those links is on the decline. In addition to that, we're seeing ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude actually have a meaningful impact on the bottom line. When we look at customer accounts, time and time again, we're seeing more sourced revenue and sales from LLMs. And if today you can't track this, I encourage you to have some type of self-identifying factor where maybe you're just asking customers, how did you hear about us? What led you our way? And it might give you that info. Folks, here's a pro tip coming right off of session 1. During session 1, I talked about how important it is to take publicly available information, upload it to your LLM of choice, and then use it to have a conversation around how could this document help me win. Google releases patents surrounding the technology that goes into the back end of their LLMs, and I encourage you, if you're not interested in embracing the whole let's just read this top to bottom, which I think is fun, but I know not everyone else does, download this PDF, download their patents, upload them to your own LLM and say, hey, Gemini, hey, Perplexity, hey, Claude, hey, ChatGPT, please review this patent and give me 10 suggestions on what I should do to improve my visibility in the LLMs. And you might be surprised by how good it is. Now, I want you all to run an experiment. Thanks to those who did their homework, but I want you to run an experiment right now. I want you to ask your AI, what is the best, and then insert your niche, your service solution for, and then describe your customer. I want you to do that. And in the chat, after you run this experiment, I just want you to say yes or no. Did you show up? Did you show up in the results from that question? Where is the best place to get a pizza in downtown LA if you're in LA? Think about your space, think about your niche, your industry, and see if you show up. For me, I would ask, what is the best B2B SaaS content marketing agency for software companies? And see what shows up. If Foundation shows up, great. If we don't, then that means I have work to do. How many of you show up when you ask that question? Now, here's the thing. By the end of this session, my hope is simple, that whether you showed up or not, you will know what you need to do to increase the likelihood that you do show up. And it starts with this framework. I gave you a sneak peek of this in session 1. Now we're going to dive into it deeper. We're going to dive into what I call the generative engine optimization framework. And it all starts with the things inside of your circle of control. At the forefront, we have artificial intelligence and information retrieval. You need to understand some of the philosophies here, but the most important things that you need to understand is that you need to make it easy for the robots to crawl your site. There are TXT files that the robots, the AI, will scrape on your site and help and use to inform what it understands about your website. You want to have a sitemap. So XML sitemaps are a great thing to have on your site because it helps structure your domain in terms of where the AI is going to crawl. Within your website, you also want to have entity markup and recognition. This is something that you would think of called schema. Again, if you're not familiar with schema, my biggest recommendation to you would be to leverage the LLM to help you create and develop the schema markup for your website. If you have not tested your website speed, that is super important. You can do this directly in Google's platform, in Google Search Console, but you want to make sure that your site is fast because the LLMs want fast websites, and if your site is too slow, it's going to move on to the next one. Then we have a content hierarchy. This is the way that your website's navigation is structured. You want to make sure that your navigation is very close to the priority pages on your site. Meaning, when I go to your navigation or I click on something in your navigation, can I get to the ideal output within 2 to 3 clicks? If the answer is yes, then you have a strong hierarchy. All right. Now, one of the things that is very important is to be able to understand what the AI sees. What I mean by that is, across the board, LLMs are being used by your customers right now. Someone just asked an LLM what microphone they should buy. Someone just asked an LLM what sauna they should buy, what type of toothpaste they should buy, whether or not they should buy this certain type of creatine, whatever it might be. They're asking these questions, and what you need to do is upload a series of prompts. We talked about prompts during our first session to tools like AirOps, Profound, Ahrefs, Athena, Otterly, or SEMrush. And by uploading these prompts, what is going to happen is now it's going to track. It's going to track how often people are using these prompts. Let me correct that, sorry. It's going to track how frequently those prompts lead to certain citations and responses. So they are going to track, for example, if I was tracking a prompt such as best camera model, and I was in the camera business, then I would be tracking the best cameras, the top cameras, the cheapest cameras, the most affordable cameras. Those are the types of words that I am going to track. And then the AI tools, AirOps, Profound, Ahrefs, etc., are going to tell me how often my brand shows up in that answer. So these tools track your brand versus competitors for prompts that you upload. Then we have on-site optimization. On-site optimization is about making sure that your host is in order when it comes to your own domain. Double eat, that's author pages, that's making sure that when someone lands on your website, that it's very clear who you are, who the author is, and I'll talk about this a bit more later. Authoritative content, you want to make sure that you are really seen as an authority on the topic. You want to have authoritative sources on your site. You want to be fluent with your message, your content. You want to incorporate expert quotes, high value statistics, and if possible, local search. So what this means is you want to call out and reference things that are more in your region and that are a little bit more local to you as well. And then finally, once you have done that, we start to go into multimodal content. Multimodal content is essentially ensuring that you have multimedia assets throughout your site. So images, videos, audio, interactive content like quizzes and things of that nature. You want to make sure that all of these things are showing up. Now, one of the pieces that I really want you to understand is the query. The query is the way in which the LLMs interpret what a user is saying. So some of you mentioned that you were showing up. That's great, right? Like when you see that your brand is showing up at the top, when you see that your brand is showing up, all of those things are great. But here's something that not a lot of people tend to think about. The query that you use will vary, right? And the way that your users think about the query that they should use will also vary. Some people might be looking for the best thing. Some people might be looking for the cheapest thing. Some people might be looking for the most affordable thing, the top thing, alternatives, comparisons, like all of these different ways of looking for things go into the mix. Now, when the user puts in their query, the LLM processes it and starts to transform it. So they start to actually modify what you've wrote as a user or what your customers write, and then modify that in a way so it can start to do multiple searches at once. This is that fan out experience that we talked about before, where essentially it starts to review and write different types of prompts to go out and find relevant documentation and then process that and give you a response directly. Now, here's where things get super tricky. And I'm going to apologize in advance because some of you might have gotten excited when you typed in your question and you showed up number one. It is very possible that the LLM was just telling you what it knows you want to see because of this thing called memory. If the LLM has stored and knows that you happen to run this company and it knows the type of company, then it is very possible that you got that answer because it knows who you are. Right? It knows that it will make its user happy by putting their company as the number one response, which leads to ongoing learning from the product. Sometimes people will take screenshots of their ChatGPT, their Perplexity, of these tools and say, look, we are the number one according to this LLM, not realizing that the only reason why is because memory has stored it in the back end and knows who they are. Here are a few other things that you should consider. Digital PR, content creation and distribution, and then search intent alignment. So when we think about digital PR, you're trying to activate more citations for your website so you start to show up more frequently at scale, right? This is something that is very important. When you think about citations, when you think about third-party citations, remember, the LLM is scraping the entire internet and it's looking at different websites from all over. It's looking for likelihoods that you're referenced on other websites. It's looking at podcast interviews. And what I would encourage you to do is to be intentional about getting your name out there. Think about trade magazines. Think about guest blogging. Think about getting yourself on a podcast or your team on a podcast. Think about all of these different things to help ensure that you are getting mentioned in other places, right? Because when it goes and it does its crawl, it has a likelihood of being able to pick that information up and then pull it back to you. All right. If you can't do the outreach yourself, don't forget there is the opportunity to pay. Right? You can reach out, you can sponsor websites, you can do newsletter sponsorships, you can syndicate your content as well. You can use industry relevant review sites, user generated content. All of these things are great. Then you have relevant influencer marketing. I would encourage you to think about whether or not influencer marketing could play a role in this. And then we have things like multimedia citations, YouTube, Yelp, LinkedIn, Reddit. You saw that slide where AI Overviews is citing a lot of sites like LinkedIn and Reddit over and over again. Quora, you want to show up in these platforms. Now, the next piece is how you can optimize and distribute more content on your site that influences the LLMs. Listicles, blog posts with opinions, relevant query modifiers, and I'm going to show you what that means later on. Ungated PDFs. If you have a lot of case studies on your website that I have to sign up to get access to, Change that. Give it away for free because that's credibility that you want to have. And then finally, understanding the KPIs that matter. I want you all to know like why this stuff works or why it matters. So the number one metric that I want you to actually think about, because I'm thinking about it from a business lens and I'm pure capitalist in that regard, I believe that the number one metric is LLM sourced revenue and deals. If the LLMs are driving transactions and sales, you're doing your job. But if you need softer KPIs than money, then let's talk about referral traffic from LLMs, brand visibility and mention rate. So how often are we mentioned in the LLMs? Citation share and source authority. So how often is the source being deemed authoritative as your like website? What is your average position? So when someone is asking the LLM and you're starting to track it in one of these tools like Profound or AirOps, it will show you whether or not you're oftentimes ranked number 1 in that list or number 2 or 3 or 4. And then you also get to upload your competitors' names. So it will tell you how much of the share of voice you have versus competitors. When you incorporate all of these things into your marketing mix, you have a better opportunity to win. But you kind of need to have a simple baseline of understanding of search intent in the way people discover things. So let's talk about that. When it comes to discovery online, search intent is what people go to Google, people go to an LLM hoping to do. Sometimes they go looking for information. If I'm looking for inspirational quotes, that is an informational gathering experience. If I am trying to go to EO's website, that is a navigational experience. So I type in EO's website. That's navigational. I know exactly where I want to go. Commercial intent. I want to sign up for EO Wharton. Okay, that is a very commercial intent. I am down a path where I am going to take commercial intent behavior. Transactional. I want to buy a sneaker. I need to buy sneakers today, right? Buy black sneakers or insert brand here. Today, more than ever before though, we're seeing all of these show up in the AI overviews. So what you should be thinking about is how can you create content that targets commercial and transactional searches? Because the way that people find things on Google is changing. Across the board, you're seeing fewer and fewer site links. You're seeing more video. You're seeing more image carousels. You're seeing a lot of changes in the way people find things. In a lot of industries, especially science, computers, electronics, these spaces are seeing massive changes every month in how they're being impacted by AI overviews. Now, here's something that not a lot of the gurus are talking about. I believe that for most of us, memory and the way that it is used for LLMs is going to fundamentally change the way that this entire thing is tracked, how it is monitored, and how we think about the experience that our customers are having. Because while not all of the tools will give you memory if you're using a free account, some of them will. Specifically, one that I believe that's going to win the entire thing, which is Gemini. Why? Because Gemini is run by Google. And Google, which also has AI overviews, which also has AI mode, will give you answers directly in the SERP tailored to you. And you might say, yeah, but Google doesn't know everything about me. Well, it has access to your Gmail. It has access to the videos that you watch on YouTube. It has access to Google Home if you happen to leverage that. And it happens to be every single day your Chrome browser that you are visiting websites on. All of that information goes into this platform, which picks up memory. And from that memory, it knows that you are a vegetarian. It knows that you are loyal to Apple. It knows that you are gluten-free, and it knows that you like to travel Europe. It has this deep understanding of you as a human that will bias every single response that you receive to be what it interprets as something that you would want. And this shift is changing very quickly. You can see right here in Google's AI mode launch that it's going to start with Gmail and then it's going to bring it across multiple Google apps. What's that mean? It means when folks are using Gemini, They might not be aware that the experience and the results that they're seeing are very much tailored to them, and that the same people all on this call could use the same prompt and we could all get very different results simply because of the memory that the LLMs have. If you have ChatGPT and you're using it and you're signed up, I would encourage you to check out your memory, because ChatGPT might know more about you than you think. Even ask the LLM, hey, I'd be very curious to know what you know about me so far. One of my favorite prompts is related to like asking ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok or whatever tools you use regularly to tell you as an entrepreneur, what don't I see? What are some problems that I keep coming to you with that I don't see? And you might be surprised how good it sees things that you don't see. How does memory work? It's simple. The conversations that you have in the past essentially give event summaries. And those event summaries create context that maybe this person is looking for book and gift recommendations. Maybe they're trying to learn how to draw. And then the LLM will actually paint a portrait for what it believes you are. Open-minded, curious, receptive to advice. Maybe it picks up that you are a foodie. Maybe it picks up that you are a wino, whatever it might be. It stores all of this in its memory. And then when you write a prompt, it takes that prompt and it modifies it to say things like, this is someone who is very curious and receptive to advice. Please find X, Y, and Z, right? So this is something that you all need to remember, is that as much as I love the fact that we're tracking these things with LLM tools like AirOps and Profound, I think the next frontier for a lot of these tools is to figure out, how in the world do you take into consideration memory? So what can all of you do? I do still think, even with the rise of memory, you should be tracking how visible your brand is in the LLMs. Whether that's SEMrush, whether it's AirOps or Profound, Athena, you name it, a lot of these tools are relatively the same. The prices vary, and if you're cost sensitive, then go with whatever's the cheapest and still gives you the answers that you want. From there, though, I think it's important that you keep in mind that even with the data, some of the LLMs that we're trying to influence are going to be harder than the others, right? Copilot, ChatGPT, these sites as LLMs are citing websites and pages that tend to get zero traffic from Google. Why does that matter? ChatGPT has a lot of content that it will cite, domains that it will reference, that Google would never send people to. Why? Because ChatGPT is in its infancy of being able to understand spam and understand reputation management. So you can spin up a quick page on Yahoo Finance and ChatGPT is going to cite it. You can spin up a quick page on a website and a blog that seems like it's a popular trade magazine, and Copilot and ChatGPT might cite it. But Google has a stronger immune system. It has the back-end data to say no one visits this website, and if they do visit because they have Google, they can see how long the click time is. They know that not a lot of that is valuable. So they might not send it there. It's way more difficult to influence. But if you embrace this whole model, this holistic approach, I still think you can win. So what does AI mode mean for you long term? I think all of us are going to see this. I encourage you to check out your Google Search Console and see if you're seeing a gap between impressions and clicks. But here's something that not a lot of people are talking about. 25% of Google AI overviews contain at least one YouTube citation. How many of you are investing in video content, right? How often do you think about maybe instead of just producing content on our site, we should also consider video? When you see numbers like that, or numbers like this, where 8% of Google AI overviews contain at least one LinkedIn citation. Are you active on LinkedIn? Are you pressing publish on LinkedIn articles or newsletters? These are things that are influencing Google's AI overviews and AI mode. And when you see that YouTube is being cited so frequently, except for ChatGPT, because Google and ChatGPT are beefing, not really friends right now, I encourage you to start to use that philosophy we talked about last time, about being your own inner Sherlock homeboy to find the opportunities. But I do think, truly, AI mode is a massive deal. And it's going to have a massive impact on all of us And the best way to set yourself up for success with Google AI overviews is to embrace double EAT: expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. We talked a lot already today about the importance of creating UGC content on Reddit, LinkedIn, Google, on your website. We talked about how you should optimize content on your website. We talked about memory. We talked about all those things. My hope is in the next few minutes, I can share with you one tactical idea that you can act on. And if any of you act on it, please share it directly in the Jumpstart LinkedIn group. And I promise to give you feedback directly on whether or not that asset could or couldn't influence the LLMs. All right, let me give you a brain dump. Here's how Foundation is executing this for partners and how you can steal it and run with it. We're using tools like Profound and AirOps to track client visibility. How visible is our clients versus their competition? And we use this tool to get a snapshot of how often the brand is showing up in AI-generated answers. And then from there, we're comparing it to others to get a sense of the share of voice that it has versus competitors. Then we take it a step further and we upload over 600 different prompts. And from those 600 different prompts, they are categorized by topics that our customers care about. Whether that's construction tracking software, construction budgeting software, it starts to create these topics that matter. And then we're able to see how visible the client is against these rankings by the topic. And we do things to help further influence that with a whole bunch of this. We embrace the idea of double EAT, of optimizing existing content, doing PR outreach, data announcements, thought leadership content, writing listicles, ungating content, and more. Now, folks, I want you to know that this isn't just me thinking that this works. There was a study done, I think, by the University of Pennsylvania, where there was a prof, and the group did this study to try to measure essentially whether or not you could influence the LLMs by optimizing certain pieces of content. And what they found was that when it came to optimizing the content for the LLMs, doing keyword stuffing didn't work. But what did work was making the content easier to understand, speaking with authority in the content, using technical terms, so terms that are relevant to the niche, being fluent with the language, having high-value cited sources. The number one thing was including quotes, adding quotations to the piece of experts and leaders in the niche and in the industry, or of customers, increase the likelihood that they would be cited, and then incorporating stats as well. These are the things that go into on-site optimization: authoritative content, relevant expert quotes, high-value stats, cited authoritative sources, right? These are the things that move the needle so you can start to see your website, your content cited versus seeing your competition. Here's another piece that you should think about. One of the most important factors, folks, is double EAT. EEAT. Expertise, experience, authority, and trust. You need to embrace EEAT. And the best way to do that is to have authors on every single net new blog post that you press publish on that is accredited to an individual. So as you can see here, there is an author's name, Meredith Wood and Ryan Lane. So when the LLM gets a prompt from a user who says, I want a small business idea for what I should start in 2026, the LLM finds this page. Then it checks to see if Meredith and Ryan have credibility. It goes through the URL of Ryan's name and it goes to this page. And it starts from the top and it goes down. And it starts to see that he's been writing for NerdWallet since 2019. It sees that he has a LinkedIn URL, so it can start that search as well. It can see his educational background. It can see his previous experience. It shows his credentials. It shows all of these things. This is the experience, expertise, authority, and trust that you want to demonstrate with author pages on your website and blog as well. This was done by Bankrate, by CNET, and more. Reverse engineer the best content and then take inspiration around that to create your own, especially when that content is being cited in the LLMs. Profound did this analysis, and they found something that I believe is mind-blowing and super important for all of you. The number one most cited content in AI is comparative listicles. So listicles that are breaking down the top X, Y, and Z, the best, the alternatives, the competitors, comparisons, those types of assets that compare other companies or rank other businesses get more citations than any other type of content in the LLM. So can you create them? Can you create highly cited listicles? These are the things that go into it. You need to have high editorial standards. I would encourage you to have multimedia assets incorporated, so images, audio, video, any type of format like that. You want to incorporate those great author pages that we talked about. Make sure that it reads like a human, so don't have those long M dashes in your content. Have internal linking throughout to other pieces, and you can make a call on your own around elements of disclosure. When you start to upload your website to Profound, AirOps, these different tools, something's going to happen where it's going to give you data on the domains that are being cited the most frequently in your niche. You might find that the most cited domain is Reddit. And in that case, maybe you need a Reddit strategy. Maybe you'll find that it's a trade publication like projectmanager.com. And in those cases, maybe you want to sponsor it. Maybe you want to contribute guest blog posts to it, right? Maybe you notice it's Yelp, or maybe at the bottom you can see Forbes. Maybe you need to become a contributor to that website, and you might have to pay to do it, but you become a contributor to that website to press publish on content. You start to build a strategy on how you can influence the LLMs by understanding the sites and the domains that are currently being cited by the ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Grok of the world. The types of content that you create are ultimately going to influence the likelihood that you show up. If you are not creating pieces that align with the types of queries that your customers would have when they're asking an LLM a question, you're reducing the likelihood of being able to influence it. So I do recommend that you embrace commercial and transactional oriented content. It's very important. Now, there is another interesting study. This was done by Ahrefs. They found that there is a correlation between search traffic and the number of referring domains. What that means is simple. If you want to generate organic traffic, then you need to make your content worth linking to. You need to create content that the rest of the internet, your partners, trade publications, friendlies, etc., are willing to link to. By them linking to you, you increase your ability to be seen as an authority, and you increase the likelihood of being able to show up in the LLMs. Now, here's another key piece. We talked a bit about search intent. I believe that you should all think about how you can create content that speaks to your audience in your niche with modifiers like these to speak directly to the people who are using the LLM to find the most popular X, Y, and Z. Let me share with you a couple of examples of prompts that would work here. So what is the best place to get a massage in this area? Who is the leading barber in this region? What is the most popular restaurant in this region? What is the most scalable software for a high growth startup looking to improve its security, right? So you start to use modifiers around quality, around the cost, and around the business size in your actual content. So you start to produce landing pages that talk about, we are the best manufacturers of X, Y, and Z in this region for this business, for this demographic. You literally write those things on your website, and then you create multiple variations of that for every single audience you speak to. If you target plumbers and HVAC professionals and electricians, you have individual pages for each of those groups of people because you need to have a larger sample size for the LLMs to pick up the modifiers that are relevant to you. And then once you've done that, you don't let that content collect dust. I see so many teams invest in content and then walk away and never do anything with it again. Remember, recency matters. If your content and your website hasn't been updated since 2023, then Google thinks you might even be out of business. Like you're stale, you need to update your website. So what do you do to fix that? These are things that you can do to quickly improve your site. Add imagery, add charts, add graphs, embed YouTube videos because Google owns YouTube. And what is Google showing in AI overviews? YouTube videos. So they're more likely to show your page with a YouTube video than one without it. Headlines that are aligned with the intent of your user. Do not make the mistake of just having your homepage say home or homepage on the title. I see this often, and it is a massive mistake, folks. The only person in the world that should have the word home in their page title are someone who is selling a home. Otherwise, it is a waste of characters in your page title. Have definitions for isolated content. Have links going out to authoritative content. Make sure that your pages are just as good as everything that is being cited and showing up in the LLMs. And ensure that you don't have the sensationalized headlines. They don't actually do you much benefit. And incorporate real-world experience, case studies, testimonials as well. We are going into one of the most fascinating times for human behavior. The future is going to look very, very different. In the future, scratch that. Right now, things are very, very different. You can go to an LLM today and say, go find me the best price for season tickets to the Philadelphia Eagles football game or the Real Madrid football game, whatever it might be, right? Pick your sport. You can go and ask it to find tickets for you. It will open up a browser. The LLM will browse on your behalf. It will find the seat on your behalf, and it will tell you exactly how much it costs, and it will give you the link. You fast forward, I think, a few months, and Google will have the ability to do this, but it will take it all of the way because it will have access to your credit card. And you'll be able to say, I want you to buy those tickets for me, and it will buy them. You'll be able to say, I want you to book a plumber. Go find the top 10 plumbers in this region, and I want you to call them and have a conversation and get quotes for me. And it will do that. And I'm not saying it will just give you the phone number. What I'm saying is it will actually call them for you, have the conversation with no latency, and have that dialogue with the plumber who doesn't know that they're talking to an AI, and it will get that quote and it will give it back to you. And it will make a recommendation to you saying, this is who I think is the best. Would you like me to buy? And you say yes, and it will call them back and it will book. That is the world that we will live in the next few months. Folks, I don't know what your goals are as an entrepreneur, but I know my goal is to try to take advantage of technology when it shows up on my fingertips. And my hope is today that one of the ideas, one of the concepts, one of the stories will resonate enough that you take that leap, that 10 years from now, when you look back and you think, wow, we really took advantage of this AI era. We really took advantage of being able to show up in the LLMs and influence buyers and drive millions of net new dollars to our business. When you ask yourself, was this event a key part of it? I hope you'll be able to say, you better believe it. Thank you so much. I really look forward to week 3 because in week 3, I'm going to show you how to build the content engine behind everything that we talked about today. Thank you all so much. Let's open it up to questions, and I would love to see some of your content directly in the LinkedIn group. Let's get to the questions.
Thank you so much, Ross. Absolutely fantastic. I'm sure all of us are right now sitting what I know I am, and I'm messaging my team. I'm screenshotting all this to my team, and they're literally receiving hundreds of messages. I'm already on our website. I'm already tasking them to change the name of the author. All of that is in motion. Super excited. Let's jump straight into questions. We have 10 minutes. We're going to start with Natasha. Who is asking, so I think that we have traditionally played a strong content game for our relative size. What we are not doing is distributing properly. How can I leverage what we have to get it on Quora or Reddit? So how do we go about all those platforms?
Great question. So when it comes to Reddit, what I would encourage folks to do is take any AI SEO tool and do a comparison between reddit.com and your website's domain. And what you're going to find are the overlap of keywords that you both compete for. And then I want you to go into those Reddit threads and start to ask yourself, is there a way for me to start to show up here and engage and discuss and leave comments and share and have conversations? I also encourage people to create a subreddit and seed their content into a subreddit that they own with their stories and with their content that they're producing. Quora is very difficult. It used to be very easy. I was one of the top writers on Quora for probably 2 years, but over time, it just became a little bit chaotic. So if you can crack it, please let me know how you do it. I think the way would be, to be honest, I do think there's a way. I just think you have to put in a lot of time and energy to create the best content ever. So you could copy and paste maybe some of your old content into Quora and see if it works. But during the content engine session, we're going to dive a lot into Reddit, and I hope folks stick around and come up to that one as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, moving on to the next question with Avital. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to raise your hand. If you want to speak with us right now, if you want to ask your question live, if you have this burning desire to be live with us, please raise your hand and we're going to take live questions first. But meanwhile, let's move on to the question with Avital, who is asking, can we use the owner's business name as the author, even if I have marketing person or a ghostwriter who publishes blogs?
I would strongly recommend you use the business owner's name and get their permission. And then, yes, I would recommend that you do that. However, if you plan to be there for a while and you are like a long-term employee, I also would encourage you to do the writing and publish it on your name, because you do have credibility, and the more that you publish, the better your career. So it's a double-sided thing. Like, I think, yes, the owner is likely the most authoritative in the space and you should ghostwrite, but in the same manner, I think you should write it from your name as well. And then for the founders here who might be thinking, okay, so I'm going to get my employees to write this. What happens when they leave? When they leave, you change it to your company's name, team. So it just becomes insert brand, name, team as the author.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there was a question from Kaylee also following up on that question from Avital, saying that they are a small business and aren't able to easily have external writers to write for them. She says, what can we do? So I think from what you said, what you do is you produce content yourself, right?
Yeah, and there's also tools out there that can support this, like leverage all of the AI tools, leverage the LLMs themselves. You can leverage all kinds of different tools. I think I shared last week a list of all the tools that I use. Like, tap into that and embrace them as well.
Excellent. We have another question from Rob here, who is asking, if I have written many articles or blogs that I have on our website, but pay to have sites like Experian to remove me from mailing lists, search site each month, then am I penalizing myself by trying to make myself invisible from socialization? I sign my writings with my initials. Should I have my full name on it?
I think I understand, but if I don't, my apologies right up front. Publish content with your name on it, 100%. You need to publish content with your name on it, unless you're not in this for business purposes. Like if you're trying to make money, put your name on your content. If you're writing poetry and you just want to like add value to the world and be creative and like make people feel good, do your thing. You can be anonymous. You don't need to do any of that. None of that matters. But if you are trying to drive business results, then you should always put your name on it so people can find you and then they can pay you and ask you questions that lead to revenue. But if you're just writing poetry because you want to make people feel good, keep doing your thing. That's okay.
I think everybody's here in EO is to add value and make money. This is the way. This is the way.
That's what I'm thinking too.
A question from Karina. Are the companies that claim to redo your website with AI and make them more effective in record time, in your view, trustworthy?
Yeah, I think the fastest way is probably going through that checklist of optimizations. Like that's the best approach that I would say.
Okay, so don't trust the promises unless they're using our checklist. Here we have a question from Stefan asking, can you recommend engines to scan Reddit for conversations that is relevant for promoting your specific industry or indirectly?
So AirOps does this extremely well. They're probably the best that I have come across in the last year plus. So I would encourage folks to Air, AIR, OPS. So AirOps, they have a pretty solid platform that can scrape Reddit and pull info and help you craft responses as well.
Fantastic. We have another question here also from Avatal. Can I use the business owner's name as an author? Oh, that was already asked. Here we go. That's pretty much all our questions for today, if I'm not mistaken. No, something else is coming. Okay, okay. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, please see, we still have 3 minutes. I think we have solid time for one more question. Drop them in the group or raise your hand to speak right now. I have a question, Ross, if we had only, let's say, 10 hours to invest in our search engine, AI-focused search engine optimization strategy, what shall we do in 10 hours as busy business owners after this session?
10 hours, I would put in my headphones, grab a cup of coffee, and I would be ready to write. So on one screen, I would have my website, be able to log into the CMS. I would have probably Claude open at the same time. And then I'm going to start with the fundamentals. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a test to see if my site speed is fast. If I get a response back that says my site speed is slow and you're not technical, you're going to take a screenshot of what you see. You're going to take that screenshot, you're going to drop it into Claude. You're going to say, Claude, this is what I just got back from Google. Please tell me what I need to do to fix it. It's going to give you some recommendations. Tell it, talk to me like I'm 5. Talk me through this step by step. And then over the course of probably an hour, you should be able to get code. You should be able to get responses and messages that will help you fix the speed issues. Then you're going to log into the back end of your CMS, and you're probably going to see that maybe your titles aren't optimized to align with search. I'm going to edit all those. Every page is going to be modified and optimized. I'm going to have that checklist open on another tab. I'm going to rename every image on my website to make sure that they have natural language. I'm going to embed YouTube videos if I didn't before. I'm going to ungate every PDF to make sure that they're crawlable and easily to find. I'm going to do all of that, and it's probably going to take 4 to 5 hours at this point. I've got 5 hours left. So 5 hours left, I'm probably going to start to create long form content. So in session 3, we're going to talk about how to do this. But what I would probably start to do is start thinking through a few different factors. What are problems that my customers are typing into Google when they are trying to find me? So are they looking for my solution as a category? So as a category, you have to think of your niche, your industry, and your space, and that is what you want to create a landing page for. So many restaurants just have restaurant. Like, no. What type of restaurant are you? Are you the best restaurant? What region are you in? What location are you in? How many different locations? If you have different locations, you better have a landing page for every single location. If you're a software, do you sell to electricians, plumbers, physicians, doctors, yogis, etc.? Create landing pages for all of those too. So at that point, you're probably thinking, how am I going to create all this content? I would probably go find 10 different pages that are really good and already ranking in the SERP. I'm going to copy and paste those into a Google Doc. I'm going to download that Google Doc. I'm going to upload it to Claude or ChatGPT or pick your favorite LLM. I'm going to say, review these pieces and give me a brief on the thinking and the strategy that would go into creating something similar. And then it's going to tell me what that is. And then I'm going to say, I want you to take that brief and make it about my industry. But my industry is X, Y, and Z, and I'm targeting this audience, and this audience. Write 10 pages for me. It's going to write those 10 pages. You're going to review it. You're going to add your own special touch. You're going to paste those over into your LLMs. You're going to run downstairs, grab a tea because it's getting late. Then you're going to drink your tea. You're going to upload those. You're going to hit publish. You're going to make sure that they're not broken. You're going to take that URL. You're going to do another site speed check. You're going to go downstairs and hang out with your family. And that's it. 10 hours.
This is it. We have a very clear right now weekend plan, I'm sure. So 140 people on the call up until recently, but now 110. Have a clear plan for this upcoming weekend. Ross, thank you so much. It was a delight to have you as always. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very much looking forward to seeing you all for our final session of AI Marketing Lab, which will be next Tuesday, 3rd February, 10 a.m. ET, and again 8 p.m. ET, where we will build your content engine. Thanks again, Ross. Thank you for the session. And there's still one more week ahead of us. Let's make it the greatest week yet.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Ashley. Thanks, everyone. And I will see you next week and hopefully on LinkedIn. Chat soon.
Woo!